My name is Kudakwase Manuel Murambaduro from Zimbabwe. I'll be presenting on integrating indigenous integrating indigenous and scientific knowledge for sustainable groundwater development under climate stress in the mid-Zambezi Valley. So to take you through my presentation, I will start with the problem why I thought of doing this is mainly modern water development approaches generally criticize indigenous knowledge, scientific knowledge systems. So from that statement, I thought of just having a discussion with you here and share my experiences, not only my experiences, but share some of the tacit knowledges which is very much untapped, given that we are now much concentrating on the scientific VESs, hydrogeological surveys, water sampling and stuff, which has been exhausted in the last year, 2.5 days. So indigenous prospection algorithms, these they triangulate biophysical surface, subsurface structures, and morphological conditions have not been integrated into contemporary water development. As you know, most of the times when we do drilling, when we do prospecting for groundwater, we find that there is this knowledge which lies within our communities, but to report it when we do our drilling reports or when we do our siting or survey reports, it's very difficult to include that. We only include the graphs, the hydrogeological maps, and so forth and so forth. The lower mid Zambezi Valley has got its own challenges, which are protracted aquifer stress because of the prolonged droughts and climate change, escalating human-wildlife conflict. These are human and wildlife conflicts are very rampant in these areas because these are wildlife corridors. Where is the wildlife will be looking for water along the Zambezi? This is where we have also our mighty Victoria Falls and other dams such as the Kariba Dam. Hydrogeological complexity with a diminishing recharge because of increasing aridity. The mid-lower Zambezi hydrological context, I think a lot have been said about hydrogeological context in this respect. The basement is fractured crystalline rocks with variable permeability, and the Karoo sediments, which are sandstones, mudstones. We have and localized aquifers. We have also alluvial deposits along the Zambezi Valley and its tributaries. We have hydrogeological challenges, which include the diminishing recharge due to climate variability and land use change, increasing aridity and complex aquifer. This is the area which I'm looking at, which include the Urungwe, Mbire, Nyami. Sometimes we'll see Binga, Wange, and other districts which surrounds which are along the Zambezi River. So in trying to explain this, I just thought of a conversion which comes as a raw groundwater development model, which involves our technical, which we all know, which was explained during the past 2.5 days. We have the scientific, which we have also exhausted. Now we have the traditional and the social, which I would also try to touch a bit so that we have maybe an understanding which include the indigenous knowledge systems, not only the indigenous knowledge systems, but the spiritual ecology, community access. Community access, you can't access a site without the knowledge within the community. The communities are the ones who tell you where you can site and they can allow you where to site. The eco-hydrological indicators, that's where I will try to explain with you or to share with you some of my experiences. From experiences, indigenous prospection algorithms include the indigenous knowledge which triangulates the surface, subsurface structures and morphological conditions through some sophisticated empirical observation accumulated over centuries. This is not superstition. As much more, many of us, if they are told of indigenous knowledge systems or indigenous knowledge, they will mainly try to relate it to superstition. I heard yesterday when Madam's I drove from Tanzania was saying we do bore witching. Uh, so this is usually taken as superstition within our communities. So I'm trying to draw ourselves back to our roots as we're talking something outside our region. So we are now talking our indigenous science, our local systems, our local knowledge. It involves, the algorithms involves landscaping, landscape reading, that is the topograph position, analysis of valley bottoms, slope breaks and depressions. They all know this and they will direct you if you ask within the indigenous knowledge systems. Soil moisture indications, vegetation vigor, soil color, cracking patterns, and so forth. Surface and groundwater interactions, they know where the wetlands and how the wetlands feed into their groundwater system. So that's why they protect these springs and seepage zones. I will talk later when talking of spiritual ecology. Don't be threatened or don't be, when I say spiritual ecology. But I want to talk about it so that we can have maybe a bit of an understanding from our own. Subsurface structures and interpretation, there we are talking of rock outcrops and weathering patterns, termite mouse distribution. You know, when people are siting, they look at those end use, how they are positioned and how this knowledge also come. You can also, using local knowledge systems, you can also look at animal behavior. Elephants usually dig where there is water. So wildlife will also congregate at water points. So you can follow how wildlife moves and you can use it for prospecting. And I've been working also with indigenous people. And in Zimbabwe, we have the Roma people and the Tani people who are the indigenous people and the local people, which include the Batonga people. So these have been bringing quite a lot of insights in groundwater prospecting. Then we have seasonal variations and temporal knowledge. Wet season recharge zones identification, they can show you dry season water persistence areas where you can even they will tell you in with the drought of 1992, this area never got dry. So we have got historical memory of successful water points. They can tell you that in 1980 something, 1970 something, they used to be bore, which was drilled and so forth and so forth. So come to our spiritual ecology and groundwater governance. Spiritual ecology is just a study of how we interact, not in the realm of the spirits, but how we interact with ourselves. We are spirits. We have protected water sites, which are springs. Some call them sacred water sites, which are mainly our springs and groundwater recharge zones. If you look at these sites, they were traditionally protected because of what they give to the communities. This hold deep cultural and spiritual significance in for our communities. These sites are protected through traditional protocols and ceremonies that have sustained them for generations. Traditional governance systems, community-based water management through traditional authorities ensure equitable access, conflict resolution, and collective stewardship. These governance structures predate modern institutions and remain highly effective. And I think we all know that we still, especially in Zim, we still make sure that these procedures and protocols are followed in our development. We have conservation through spiritual frameworks. We have areas which we usually say they are sacred and you need to be very careful in approaching them. But for you to know these areas, you have to integrate your indigenous knowledge systems in your prospecting so that they show you, so that they make it easier for you to access these sites. These spiritual beliefs and taboos act as sophisticated conservation mechanism, restricting overuse, protecting recharge areas, and maintaining ecosystem integrity. And there are some forests and some wetlands which have been protected because of this. Recharge zones have been protected because they are sacred, and it's because of that they are remained protected with the system. So they these are very important in our groundwater prospecting. If we ignore it, we might have very nice graphs and very nice VS and very nice presentations, analyzed graphs and everything. But in terms of the discharge which we get from the yield which we get from our bores, it remains low. Respecting cultural dimension um, is not optional, but it ensures, sorry, it ensures acceptance, or it ensures acceptance of our projects or acceptance of our, however, interventions which you want to do in an area. Eco hydrogeological indicators, I chose to use trees. Yes, indigenous communities use specific tree species with deep root systems and sophisticated indicators of groundwater depth and aquifer productivity. I think when we go for hydrogeological prospecting, if you ignore these features, at times you spend the whole day. But if you look at such species in Southern Africa, I've just chosen some of the species. Longocus capasa, which is in our Shona language is Mpanda. Usually, you find during the projects we have done in the Zambezi Valley, you find bores which we drew, and bores which we did cap test, which are surrounded by these trees. The Longocus capasa has got very high potential of having high yields, and we've got the Kigelia africana, which is the sausage tree. Also, is also associated with groundwater, and also we have some species which are associated with shallow groundwater, which is Sisgan caditum and the Ficasa. These are also associated with shallow groundwater occurrence, which is the berry trees which you see along river systems and along wetlands. Also, we have with Adrinsonia dictata, which is our baobab tree. It is like also not associated with the occurrence of groundwater. So groundwater prospecting in area where we have more of these trees, of the baobab trees, is very difficult or very challenging. So talking of the scientific validation, this remains a gap which I think all as hydrogeologists which are seated here, I think we need to have a study on these species, a study on these areas, so that we add knowledge to our systems. So we want to just running through from our request and drill to a well-informed conjunctive development of groundwater. Request and drill, that's when we used to do our development, where we just say people want bores, and we just go and try to prospect and we drill. So it shows some of the failures, which has got 40 to 60% poor understanding of aquifer, and neglecting alternative sources like the springs, shallow wells, and so forth. We have well-informed conjunctive development, which involves an integrated model which have hydrological surveys with integrated indigenous knowledge systems and community consultations. It also make available the alternative sources like springs, and it's more adaptive. Then we have, let me just jump into the lessons and recommendations. Groundwater is not only hydrological resource, but a sacred element embedded in belief systems, community identity, and cosmological worldviews. Integrating this understanding into water governance enhances conservation, respect for recharge zones, and sustainable use. Key lessons is the spiritual ecology is a practical science. Traditional beliefs and taboos function as a conservation mechanism that protect groundwater recharge zones and prevent overexploitation. Sacred sites mark hydrological significance. Springs and groundwater discharge zones protected as sacred sites often coincide with critical aquifer recharge areas and high yield zones. Community ownership requires cultural respect. Water interventions that acknowledge spiritual dimensions achieve higher acceptance, better maintenance, and longer sustainability than few technical approaches. Recommendations to practitioners. For development, practitioners engage traditional authorities early in project design, conduct cultural impact assessments, alongside the hydrological surveys, let's also budget for these protocols, traditional protocols. At times, we try to budget for this after we have hit a number of dry holes. Then we try to consult these traditional traditional leaders. Let's involve them, as they are also key in our in our groundwater prospecting or development. Yeah.
Sorry, please stop. My dear friend.
Ask.
Yeah. It's not bewitch. Yeah, please.
Okay, thank you very much. Very enlightening and fascinating presentation. I have very keen knowledge, curiosity around indigenous knowledge systems. And from what you've just indicated, it seems that it actually works. So my question is, how safe are the knowledge systems? Is there somewhere where we are documenting these for future generations and for the integration with mainstream science?
Yeah, it's a challenge which I'm giving to hydrogeologists here and also who are out there. That's why I put a point that we need to document knowledge alongside technical data to validate eco-hydrogeological indicators scientifically, to integrate these when prospecting. These are indigenous knowledge system prospecting algorithms into site selection methodology. So the issue of documentation, I think that's where we are lacking on these knowledge systems. So I think we need to have where we can document them before we lose them, because this is the transition. Look, we have those youth which are here. They all talk of these are the DISs, these are the VESs, these are the analysis, and they never talk about this issue. That's why I'm the transition between the youth and the elder. So I want to impart this to the youth.